for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. I want to talk about this important time of this year's Lion's Gate, which is known as the 8-8 Portal of Light. It is a very important gateway, and in this video I want to discuss why this year specifically it is so important. But before that, and as I go deeper into the storyline, I want to reveal to you a little about the Illumined Union project. So each time as I ascend and descend into my light being embodiment here on Earth, I receive more from my Illumined group, the mission team, about our collective purpose here on the Earth and why this is so important from the perspective of the cosmic union and the Illumined Union journey altogether. It's quite an altruistic journey in a way. It's filled with devotion to the greater purpose in life, for the evolution of life, for the evolution of the human species, the human genome actually, and the undertakings that the dweller within, as the light being within, shares as it comes together in union with the human counterpart. So since this 8-8 portal began, and you know there's a whole interval of energy when this is upon us, when the energies start to pour through, I was in deep download mode, and it felt like everything started coming together, all pieces of the puzzles, all the information. So I was in channeling mode for quite a while, and I was writing a lot automatically, and it felt like everything is starting just make total perfect sense. Because as you know, they always give me as much as it's important, and as much as it's important for my journey as I embody more of my light being. And each time I receive more, so I'm able to share more. But this time it felt it was like a conglomeration of everything, a compilation of everything, and all the years of the struggles and challenges, everything's starting to make perfect sense, because it is a mission of the embodiment. So the Tantrika beings, we, those of us who have this purpose, we are actually light beings. We don't come from the earth or the evolution of earthly species or the humanoid forms who have been developing with Earth. We are the masters of life force. So from the higher perspective, so our higher beings, our light beings, who are capable of working through the direct pulse of life. And what we do is we harness that energy through the optimal way. So we're always making the most optimum connections of the way this life force is meant to pour through and come through a certain form. So the life that is being held in a certain stationary embodiment, which we would know it as a planetary embodiment, and be held at a certain vibrational level. This pulse of life, this impulse, influences the sacred geometric patterns of light that are certain forms that hold the etherical forms together, and then the etheric forms bring forth the composition of the human form. So as humans are choosing their embodiments, they're quite free in choosing the appearance and the physical structures. But for a long period of time, humans weren't very free in choosing the way their bodies would develop, because they weren't developing in a fast enough rate. Because since the fall and the distortion and the manipulation of the human genome, not a lot of evolution was happening. There was a lot of evolution, as you know, technologically and advancements, and this is all more mind creation. But from the perspective of spiritual evolution, which then precipitates into the physical form, there wasn't a lot of evolution happening actually. So the divine intervention known as the light beings, the project of Illumined Union, precipitating and with sharing their essence, imbuing their essence through the seed of life, which is for them the immaculate design that they've already hold, you know, and then sharing that with the human genome, that was quite an undertaking. There was a call of Earth because most of the humans weren't able to, or not choosing to make out that call when certain specific evolutionary cycles are completed. And there is a precedence and, you know, the expectation of the next one and the next unfolding. So at that time, there was a call made by Earth because she was impulsed to give a call out herself through her own frequency and resonance, because she herself, as you know, was meant to evolve as an evolving being. And the evolving humanoid species were meant to evolve with her, but there wasn't a lot or enough component within their physical structure to follow the magnetic changes of Earth. So what occurred was that there was a divine intervention, this divine plan that we call the illumined union, and we actually you know, there were experimentations happening before, but not a lot of them were successful, because the human evolution had to gradually increase their light quotient, and in a natural way they were meant to evolve just enough so that the light beings could come in form. The thing is that light beings are specifically very different. They're very pure. They don't come through the more regular incarnational cycles of soul embodiment. So for them to come directly and be influenced directly through the pulse of life, which is straight from the galactic core, which is impulsed through the galactic attractor, if you've ever heard about that, which is a conglomeration of several galaxies, not just the core of one galaxy, which we know, and we live in Milky Way galaxy. But it's the coming together, and several pulses, they're all beaming in different directions. So from that unity perspective, there was a call out. And out of love, we went forth to set up a new human template. And as you know, I've talked about that a lot. I will relate to how this specifically aligns with this year's Lionsgate and why this is so important for the star-born beings or the star humans that are living in this form. It's not necessarily the same as light beings, because light beings are illumined beings. Star beings come from several regions of the galactic plane, or maybe even other galaxies, and sharing their essence here at this time, particularly with Earth. And there was several of them. There was quite many of them coming and be present at this time, which we sometimes call the Starseed Project, or, you know, the Volunteer Soul Project. But the illumined beings are those who specifically work with the essence, or at the essence level. So with the precipitation of their life force, they're holding a sort of like the intention and purpose to change and modify and adapt within their own embodiment the physical structure of the human, because consciousness, as it expands, doesn't always bring forth physicality organically, right? It doesn't always automatically bring it with it. So there was a need to intervene, especially in this shifting times. And the Illumined Mission Project is therefore known as Illumined Union Journey, which a lot of humans, as you know, nowadays mistaken for the two people coming together and being in a twin flame union. The Illumined Union Project is not that at all. It can involve that, of course. There's a natural chemistry and greater purpose fulfilled when two beings of that same magnetic nature come together. However, the Illumined Union Project in itself reads the illumination of human form from within. So that's what I'm teaching, and that's why my work is called Illumined Ascension. And this is primarily my work out of all the things I do, because as you know me, if you do know a little bit about me, because I'm, as you know, very mysterious, and even people who think they know me, they know very little about me, because I keep 99% just for me. That's how I am. It's meant to be this way. It's how I'm programmed and designed. But in that sense, if you know a little bit about me, I'm very multidimensional, very skilled at several things. However, my primary teaching and purpose on Earth is the corporeal adjustment. So it's like the physical ascension teachings that are given through me through my own example, through my own embodiment. So as I live my life, I'm adjusting to these changes, and as I adjust, each wave of precipitation of my light being comes through when it's possible to come forth. And no sooner or no later, it's always in divine timing and resonance, because resonance is that the two things, you know, that are each swaying with their own vibration eventually come into resonance. So this is happening with the old body and the new body template. And these readjustments at this point are reaching their peak. And as I was undergoing these changes myself, I've been noticing a sort of like a climaxing period. And I was giving very advanced teachings of the pulsar. I've shared this with you, the whole absorption into this expanded light field, and then coming out of that in the expanded pulsar light technology, which is the direct life pulse alignment, and then using that and beaming with that through our own body, which literally influences our form. And it does so by first changing the geometrical patterns, and then changing the way the etherical body or the etheric body corresponds with our physicality. So there's a lot of advancement. It sounds simple, yet there's a whole lot of spiritual law behind this, mechanics, chemistry, you know, cosmic chemistry, I call it. And of course, a whole lot of love and devotion to this process. And so it's a very unknown process because they've showed me that the way the mechanics are being changed, so there's a reconfiguration of the human physical bodies being done each time with each cycle in a different way, because each time human form will be in a unique position, right, in accordance to galactic center alignment, the stellar gateways alignment, and all of that. So within this cycle, they told me there's a new way that the light beings are coming into form, because eventually this light seeding project is meant to serve several purposes. First is to create a new human template, right, the illumined body template, and as each light being masters this within the embodiment they're given on or they're choosing to work with, and they're going through their challenges and their modifications, specifications, and adjustments in the body, right? That's what we're doing in order to have that reconfiguration of the DNA, or, you know, the way it influences our cell, or the cellular configuration. That's what we're going through, and it can only be done when we enter our bodies, because that's the way we experiment with form, and it's very challenging to experiment with form when you're a light being. So there's this precipitation of the light being is coming in waves, because otherwise it would overcharge, overburn, overstimulate the body, which is happening with me each time I have a download, a wave of my light being coming into my form. My physical body has such difficulty in adjusting to that, to the frequency, before that resonance is achieved, before both can vibrate at the similar rate. If you don't know what resonance means, not just I resonate with this and that, but from a scientific or physics perspective, go Google that. It's a beautiful explanation given. So when this is done in that state, right, before resonance, a total resonance is achieved, there can be challenges to the way physical bodies are configured. So this is what we're working with. We're finding optimal waves of how life force comes through, how much is allowed, how much light can come into our form. Basically, that's the under signature of the Illumined Union project, is how much light can come, the light of the light being. We're talking about a pure, refined light, the illumined light. We're not talking about the light that's being refracted and fragmented through entering through several gateways. This is a direct impulse. So that's quite intense for this human body that had its ancestral lineage and its way of evolving, and then having that experience for the first time. So they were telling me we're the forerunners, and I was one of the first chosen, and it's almost like they gave me this analogy of the first pancake that's usually spoiled. So that's what they kind of compared it with. And sometimes for me it felt very devastating, because I felt like an experiment. I felt like I'm in a lab rat, you know. And they said no, it's done through love, because from a higher perspective, once you understand the core meaning and purpose for this, and the mechanics of the way we're working and together in the group, it becomes very beautiful and light. So because of that and the nature of what they share with me, I was actually guided to change the Patreon course for this month, which is all about this physical body and cellular reconfiguration, because it is so important, and it aligns with our 8-8 gateway, the portal of light. So it's very challenging, like I described, for the physical body to receive more of the light being, and then eventually unify the templates of the human or the inner dwelling divine child. And then this light being, it's like spirit and matter, and they eventually have to really come into union, which is the Illumined Union project. It's not about two beings coming together. It's about the essence of spirit, the essence of form, achieving such a beautiful resonance that hasn't been achieved before, so that there can be a repair with the damaged aspects, or the reconfigured into the more negative manipulation of the human bodies that, you know, were after the fall, by specific beings who sort of wanted to modify and adjust the way human pulse is received, so they could align no longer with the solar imprint, which is the soul imprint through which the souls travel as the gateway of being impulsed at the soul level, but they sort of reconfigured it at the lower, lesser level, so that the humans couldn't evolve at the way to achieve this level of ascension when this 26,000 year cycle, you know, of evolutionary completion, the first of those cycles would be complete, and then new changes will start to happen. So this divine intervention, in a way, it's beautiful, and it is very challenging. It's not an easy journey at all. So in the monthly Patreon course, I will go deep into the details of how this work is, what it means for everyone, because the light beings, those of us who have this mission, we're going through it first. But then as we do this, and as we do our inner rewrites and completions of the physical reconfiguration and, you know, the structure of the template that's being now embedded into the body, we're sort of emanating that, and it goes into the collective field, and those who already can reach that and can work along with that as well. They've said all the pathway, all the courses, everything I've ever done is there. It's all out in the open. There's one final course waiting for me, which is the Cosmic Christ embodiment. And this will be my last course, because then I'm guided to retire from that level of work, going into the new forms and new ways of being and, you know, acting in this planet, like I've already shared with you before. That is somehow no longer needed, because it's done. Now it's all up to you. It's up to people who feel called, who know their calling, who want to ascend organically, who want to understand physical ascension, because whatever you do with your mind is not enough, because the pulse of the planet is changing. The core dynamics of the planet is being rewritten. As you know, the magnetism of the planet is changing, and if our magnetic resonance within our form is not upheld and doesn't follow the planetary configuration, the forms will no longer be sustained that way, and the natural earth guardianship will be taken away from those beings who are disrespecting the planet and can no longer go along into the next cycle. It's all happening in stages, but it is happening, and it is what it is. So it's all a natural unfolding. And like I've shared before, there was a period in time where this was not even possible, because the density of the human bodies were so low, and because the light being, when it comes to direct light precipitation, they require a different and more evolved body, and even that we have to rework within for us to even survive. So as they've shared with me just recently, there was a time in my life when almost like a shield was always placed around me, and this shield, even though I wasn't always aware of it, made possible for interaction with the people on the planet in a way that always had a little of a barrier in between, so my energy could even survive, so that my light could even have a whole physicality here. And now with my own mastery and the expansion of the light field from within, I'm more capable of holding this natural state of my authentic vibration, which is a very high resonance, and it does influence my nervous system a lot. So I do have quite some issues and challenges in the body, although it doesn't seem to be so, because, you know, images and pictures and everything can lie. It's all about how I feel in the body, and it's recently coming to this climax where it's really challenging for me, because it's right at the apex point of moving into that full resonance, and that's usually the hardest part. And that's why they're calling me to retire, so that my body can replenish and balance itself and move into this new template completely, in this new configuration, and that will assist others to follow. Because we do need to follow with the planetary changes and with her magnetic nature by shifting our own from within. So at the same time, when we're doing this work, as the light being does it within us, the human counterpart is learning to adjust and nurture the bodies, or finding means and remedies in a way to remedy ourselves back into wholeness, so that we find new ways of movement, of being, because it is being changed. The ways our bodies will be now, the way movement will be sort of like lived in the body, that's changing as well. So a lot of the old ways of being in the body are also being reconfigured and redesigned, and we're needing to find new ways of feeling good and joyful in the body. So that's also quite an undertaking. So it took me, as you know, quite a few years to get to this point, to understand the full realization of why I'm actually here. It began with Ascension Pioneers. It had many stages, moving through volunteer souls and all the knowledge I was infused with. And now it led me to this full understanding of the way Tantrikas work, and the way we are reconfiguring the human body so that they can once again have this direct life pulse alignment. And it's quite challenging, so it's being gradually modified and altered. So now a few words about how this 8-8 portal or gateway is influencing this mission path, so to say. As you know, the 8-8 gateway is the most important gateway in the year for the star-born beings on the planet, because this is when we get our new imprints. This is what we get, the new support for our body, the new sacred geometric patterns of light. And they're helping our bodies to be sustained. So it's like a yearly cycle. So we receive that support and we have it and hold it for 1 year, and then we integrate it and then receive the new one. But specifically this year, there's a culmination point, and this year's Lionsgate is specifically important, is especially important for us. For me, exactly because of this culmination. But if you are more interested, please support my work, and you can do that by joining the Patreon, where all of this content is shared freely and unconditionally for people who tune into with different levels of what they're choosing to hold, because there's several levels from beginners to advanced. And the advanced levels have all the courses that I'm guided to create. And there's also a mini audiobook about the extended information on all of this that I've shared. And it's quite intense. It's quite a lot, but I'm sure you can handle. It's a beautiful unfolding. It's actually like a story of light, a story of our joining together and finally coming together into having and holding all pieces of the puzzles and saying, oh yes, when I understand this bigger picture, it all so much easier, you know? So I also made a spirit drawing. I've channeled this drawing of how this infusion of light through this gateway comes in specifically, and the way it's altering your physical form. It's on the drawing. It's also on Patreon, and it's just all unfolding. And like I said, it's very challenging for the body, specifically now, to hold this new configuration. And there's kind of like what they're showing me, the final adjustments happening, but there's also a new dawn, and it's very difficult, you know, to trust for me when I'm in this tight grip, when it feels like this energy is too high, because for me it's always like this. There's this new impulse and I'm totally up in this cosmic bliss state, and I get so much electricity of that direct pulse, refinement coming through me when it comes through. And then the next moment I can have a total downfall because the body just collapses. And the work was how much of this light being, the inner dweller, which is now dwelling with the inner human embodiment and the inner human divine child, which we relate to our personality, and yet it's more than our personality. So there were these experiments of how this is being done, because like I said, in each cycle, the way light is being precipitated is changed. We're learning new ways. So light beings are learning as well. We have our own evolutionary cycles. We're learning how to do that. We're learning how to trust. We're learning how to be in the human design, in the human bodies. We're learning how to be with humans and not feeling so attacked all the time, and non-home and non-resonant with the entirety of this dualistically frameworked reality. And it's very challenging. But since this Sirius gate open, which was around the 26th or 27th of July, and continuing throughout the whole August, actually, until the harmonic convergence point, which is on the 17th or 18th of August. It's a beautiful alignment as well. It's also a yearly round tour around that timeline point, because it has its emanation. It's also specifically important. So I was guided since that time to start these morning daily prayers and invocation for the expanded light field and hold that vibrational attunement within that expanded light field, which we've also talked about on Patreon. It's quite an intensive training, but those of you who feel called and ready, you can join at any time to become a part of the illumined ascension and to understand that the bodies are shifting, and they don't just shift automatically. They require the allowance of these waves of the light being coming in. And for me, it was a very gradual process, and yet it was very fast, which in a way did deplete and exhaust my physical body as it is at this current point. But I was promised a full renewal and revival if I give myself this time for reinvention and nurturance of what's yet to come within the new template. So in a nutshell, that's that. And watch out for this beautiful gateway. I know people are holding ceremonies for several reasons, but if you're capable and possible, you know, if that feels in your heart like a calling, and if you resonate, hold this year the intention for your physical form and for that to be reconfigured, and to understand that the Sirius, which is the sixth dimensional doorway, holds the sacred geometries that then move through the fifth dimensional etheric forms, move through the astral planes where the flow is being ignited, and then in the third dimensional spaces this is being achieved by being taken into form. And you know, there's always adjustment periods, and so but this is the most important update and upgrade we're receiving at this time. And all of this in advance of what this is, how this is being done, It's all channeled. It's on Patreon. You can get the audiobook. The links will be down below. So please, if you're ever feeling the call, you can support my work. You know, I do have donations available as well as direct transactions if you ever feel the calling. But you know, it's always my intention to, because of so much of content I've created, I prefer if people would start learning and growing and evolving through the content that I created, not just, you know, sending me money. It's not my intention. If you ever feel the calling, that's beautiful. You know, I always reciprocate by sending back an illumined oracle for you. But for me, it feels most important that people start really going in that path, because that's my devotion, that's my life work, that's my legacy. And yet I can only go this far, and I can only set up the stage. And yet, like I've said, it's up to every one of you. It's up to all of the people who have chosen to go with the planetary changes, who changed so much within, that they've accepted these changes gradually, and yet they understand that they're also happening in a fast-paced way, and that the shifts are changing and altering the magnetic fields, and that we're needing to follow up with that and those changes. So have a beautiful and most benevolent Lion's Gate and portal opening. You know, things will happen and come to people who have readied themselves to receive advanced information. And as always, miracles don't happen automatically. They happen for those who create them through their own inner alchemy and magic of understanding their soul. And the ultimate step at the end, like they've shown me, is to fully trust the light being, of being completely capable to rework those changes in the body. That's kind of like even challenging for me, I tell you that. And it's not a piece of cake, but it is a piece to be eaten and swallowed and digested on our path. So anyway, guys, thank you for being here, for joining me. After this, like I said, it's going to be a short period of withdrawal and retirement for me. There's new things waiting, but I will update you when the Cosmic Christ course comes out. I won't share it on Patreon. There was a slight change there. They told me to just create it as a regular course. But if you're a Patreon, you always have, if you want to, if you have the inclination to also participate with the courses that are extra on my page, you can have a discount if you always contact me. So there's a beautiful group there, and we're holding the light, people who are interested in these changes and making them within themselves. So you're always welcome to join. As always, with so much love, wisdom, and power, I greet you in the name of oneness and our illumined mission team for the unity of all, the spirit and matter as one. So I'm sorry about that. So just as I was saying, in the union of spirit and matter, my camera nodded as well and fell down on the floor. So I was just about to say goodbye to you. And I wanted to also say, if you don't know where to start, you know, imbuing yourself with this higher wisdom, the light intelligence of the higher beings and the higher realms and the celestial team of the illumined mission. As you know, I've prepared several courses, and sometimes people who are new don't know where to start. I have a Tantrical Life Force Mastery course, which gets you started with this, which is on my under my mastery courses. I have a new body, or the Illumined Human Body template course, as well as some audio materials and audiobooks as well about this. There is a whole package as well. This the Trinity of Life package, which you can get with my more physical courses, which also are together. I think together in the package you have the Tantrical Life Force Mastery course, the Cosmic Dance, and the Cosmic Orgasm, which are all super deeply important for our physical work and to begin there. But I also, as you know, recently published the Organic Ascension course for the Trinity of Life training, which is also there on my Physical Ascension tab. So just go to the Serapina Light webpage and there's a Physical Ascension tab. I think that's also where my Cosmic Christ will be posted once it is recorded and done and all organized. This sometimes takes more work than it does to channel it. That's the easy part for me. It is what it is, you know, and it's always so interesting to channel, because I have to tell you this, it's just beautiful, because you just know that there's so much, because you feel so full. And when I feel full, it's like a woman who's just about to give birth and she's all anxious and I just need to get it out. So sometimes I will write half of the day just writing until my hand will fall off, and it's just a lot. But once it's done, it feels like I'm open again. It feels like there's a blank slate. I'm complete, I'm done. and it feels good. I feel emptied out again. And even with all the things I create, like courses, videos, all the trainings, it always felt like this. And this is how you know that the energy moves through you. You get that potential, you harness it, you materialize it, then you open up the space for the new. So these are some of the recommendations and where you can start. This is also how you support yourself, but at the same time, by supporting yourself with this high refined knowledge, you are also supporting me and my work so that we can continue here as within our mission team, because we are in the physical realm still as of yet. And it's a beautiful realm to be in, to live in this masterful state once you can be in that state. Once you learn to bypass all the restrictions and self-limitations, which are also, in a way, part of our DNA system that was so distorted. And now finding this way to fully feel like a liberated self, it's the optimum way, and it is the way of the physical ascension. And the way I know it, the way the mission team of the Illumined Union Council shares it, and the way it's being lived through us here on Earth. So thank you for watching and tuning out. I'll see you.